Self-care is selfish. That's what the world seems to whisper every time you take a moment for yourself. Skip a call to meditate? You're ignoring people. Say no to a favor? You're being difficult. But what if the real selfishness is constantly sacrificing yourself to please everyone else? We live in a society that praises burnout like it's a badge of honor, where chaos is constant and peace feels like a luxury we can't afford. But the ancient Stoics saw things differently. They believed that true strength isn't found in doing more, but in mastering yourself. So if you're tired of running on empty, of reacting to life instead of responding with purpose, this video might just change the way you see everything. In the next few minutes, I'll share with you 11 Stoic strategies that don't just sound wise, they're battle-tested. They'll help you reclaim your calm, sharpen your focus, and build a life that isn't easily shaken by noise or negativity. But be warned, this isn't a feel-good list of cliches. These are tools for warriors of the mind. Let's begin. 1. Make yourself a priority. You can't pour from an empty cup. You've probably heard it before. You can't pour from an empty cup. But most of us don't truly understand what that means until we find ourselves drained, resentful, and running on fumes. You wake up exhausted. Emails are piling up. Someone needs you again. And somewhere in all that noise, you forget that you exist too. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one else will. It's not about being selfish. It's about being functional. Because if your mind is scattered, your body depleted, and your spirit dim, how can you show up fully for anything or anyone? The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, writing in the chaos of war and politics, reminded himself, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In other words, how you treat your inner world affects how you show up in the outer one. So how do you begin? You start small. You reclaim 5 quiet minutes in the morning, before the world makes demands. You breathe deeply. You write down your intention. You remind yourself that your peace is not negotiable. And yes, maybe you stand in front of the mirror and say, I am worthy. I rise above challenges. It might feel awkward, silly even, but what you repeat, you become. This isn't about fleeting motivation. It's about neuroplasticity, rewiring your brain day by day to believe you matter. And then there's boundaries, the invisible lines that protect your time, your energy, your mental clarity. They're not walls to keep people out. They're fences with gates, opened on your terms. Ask yourself, who or what drains me? Who do I keep saying yes to when my body screams no? Seneca once said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. And I'll add, become someone who also improves yourself. Because when you make yourself a priority, you're not just taking care of you. You're laying the foundation for everything and everyone else to thrive. So here's the real question. What small act will you do today to stop running on empty? Will you finally protect your peace? Because the world will keep taking until you decide that your energy is sacred. And that, my friend, is where Stoic strength begins. 2. Enhance your appearance, the outer reflection of inner strength. Let's address a lie that's been quietly poisoning the way we view ourselves. Caring about how you look means you're shallow. Society has tricked us into believing that self-presentation is vanity. But the truth? It's self-respect. The Stoics would agree, not because they obsessed over trends or mirror selfies, but because they believed in aligning the outer with the inner. Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In today's world, doing what you have to do includes showing up in a way that reflects who you are inside. This isn't about perfection. It's about congruence. Because when your outward appearance mirrors your internal clarity, something powerful happens. You walk taller. You speak with more calm. You act with more conviction. Think about the last time you dressed in a way that felt right. Not fancy, not flashy, just aligned. How did you move through the world that day? How much more grounded, intentional, and energized did you feel? This is the magic we often overlook. So no, this isn't about chasing aesthetic standards set by marketing teams. It's about asking yourself, what version of me am I stepping into today? And how do I show up to honor that? Maybe it's finally getting a haircut that feels true to your evolving self. Maybe it's ditching the clothes that make you feel invisible. Maybe it's simply standing up straighter, shoulders back, and breathing like you belong in every room you walk into. Because you do. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." And once you look in, don't forget to look outward too. Your posture, your grooming, your style, these are not superficial. They are signals to your own brain that you care. They're small, powerful cues that shape your mood, sharpen your self-image, and signal to others that you know your worth. So here's your challenge. Pick one thing this week that helps your outer world match your inner growth. It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It just has to feel like you stepping into who you're becoming. This isn't vanity. This is integrity of body, mind, and presence. 3. Smile more, the silent strength that changes everything. Let's be honest, some days the last thing you want to do is smile. You're tired, frustrated, maybe even quietly falling apart inside. And in a world that feels heavy, fake smiles seem like lies, don't they? But here's the paradox. Your smile might be your most underestimated superpower. Not because it fools people into thinking you're fine, but because it signals something much deeper. That you're choosing your response, not surrendering to the storm. Stoicism doesn't ask us to pretend everything is okay. It asks us to control how we show up in the face of chaos. And sometimes, showing up starts with the curve of your lips. Modern science backs this ancient wisdom. When you smile, yes, even if it feels forced, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the very chemicals that elevate mood, sharpen focus, and reduce stress. It's not magic. It's biology. And here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a real smile and a deliberate one. That small, conscious act becomes a psychological pivot, a way to shift your energy without denying your reality. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Sometimes that shift in thinking begins with a quiet, resilient smile. Let's be clear, this isn't about pretending. It's not about plastering on joy when your world is on fire. It's about choosing a stance of inner strength in the face of difficulty. A smile then is not weakness. It's your silent rebellion against the chaos. And there's more. Smiles are contagious. They soften tension, invite connection, and shift the emotional climate of a room. Ever notice how one genuine smile from a stranger can brighten your entire morning? That's the ripple effect. You hold that same power. Even your voice changes when you smile. Try it next time you're on a phone call. Your tone becomes warmer, your energy more open. People feel it, even if they don't realize why. So how do you make this a practice, not a performance? Start simple. Smile before you get out of bed. Smile at your reflection, even on rough mornings. Smile at someone who seems like they need it. Even if that someone is you, it won't solve all your problems, but it might just change the posture of your soul. And that, my friend, is what Stoicism is all about. Not denying life's burdens, but choosing the strength with which we carry them. Smile, not because life is perfect, but because you've decided to meet it with grace. 4. Set boundaries with kindness, protecting peace without losing compassion. There's a quiet war that many of us fight daily, the struggle between being kind and being consumed. We've been taught that saying yes makes us good, that being available, agreeable, and endlessly accommodating is virtuous. But let me ask you this, at what cost? How often have you sacrificed your peace just to avoid disappointing someone else? How many times have you swallowed your no to spare someone's discomfort, while quietly betraying yourself? Stoicism teaches us that true power lies in self-governance. And sometimes that means protecting your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. Kindness and boundaries are not opposites. In fact, they are companions. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-erasure. Boundaries without kindness become walls. But when you combine the two, you create something powerful, dignified strength. Epictetus put it simply: keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern. What isn't yours to carry isn't yours to hold. So how do we begin? You start by recognizing the signs. The people who leave you feeling drained. The obligations that trigger resentment. The subtle moments where your inner voice whispers, "This doesn't feel right," but you smile anyway. Then, you do the hard but necessary thing. You communicate. Clearly. Calmly. Without guilt. You don't need a long explanation. You don't owe anyone a justification for valuing your mental clarity. A simple, "I'm not available for that," or "this doesn't work for me" is enough. Will it feel uncomfortable? Absolutely. But discomfort is the soil where self-respect grows. And here's something you might not expect. When you begin setting boundaries, people may push back. They're used to the old version of you, the one who always said yes. Let them adjust. That's not your burden to carry. Over time, something beautiful happens. You stop needing to defend your limits. You start surrounding yourself with people who naturally respect them. And when you respect your own boundaries, you give others permission to respect theirs too. That's leadership. That's emotional integrity. So ask yourself honestly, where am I leaking energy? What conversation have I been avoiding? Out of fear that I'll seem unkind. Because here's the truth. Saying no to what drains you is saying yes to your peace. And peace is not something you negotiate. It's something you protect with quiet strength and unwavering grace. 5. Stay calm in chaos, the power of stillness in a noisy world. Deadlines, notifications, arguments, uncertainty. Life doesn't gently ask for your attention, it demands it, loudly, constantly. And before you realize it, your mind is racing, your breath is shallow, and you're reacting, not responding. But here's the truth no one tells you. Staying calm in chaos isn't passive. It's a powerful, deliberate act of inner resistance. The Stoics knew this long before neuroscience confirmed it. They taught that while we can't control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire while surrounded by conflict, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This strength doesn't come from suppressing emotions. It comes from creating space between stimulus and response. That space is where your wisdom lives. Let's bring it down to something real. Imagine you're in traffic, already late, and someone cuts you off. You feel that surge, anger, tension, adrenaline. You could yell, "Tailgate, let it ruin your morning." Or you could breathe. Just one conscious, deliberate breath. That's where calm begins, in the breath. Try this. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4. This simple practice signals your nervous system. You're safe. Your mind clears. Your body softens. Suddenly, you're responding with clarity instead of reacting from chaos. In Stoicism, this practice is more than stress relief. It's discipline. Because calm isn't the absence of emotion. It's the command of emotion. And let's not romanticize it. This takes practice. But so does panicking. So does spiraling. Why not train your nervous system to work for you, not against you? Another powerful shift is perspective. When you're overwhelmed, ask yourself, will this matter 5 years from now? Most of the time, the answer is no. That question pulls you out of survival mode and into rational thought. Stoics called this the view from above, zooming out to see how small most problems really are in the vast landscape of life. So next time life feels like it's closing in, don't try to control the storm. Control your sail. Anchor yourself in stillness, and let the chaos pass like waves around a steady ship. Because the world doesn't need more people who panic. It needs people who remain grounded while others unravel. People like you. 6. Set your own course, the courage to live on your own terms. There comes a moment, quiet, often unnoticed, when you realize you've been living a life built on other people's expectations, pleasing, proving, performing, chasing someone else's version of success, while your own voice grows quieter with each passing day. But what if the bravest thing you could do was to take back the map, to set your own course, not the one that's popular, not the one that's safe, the one that's true, in a world that tells you what to want, how to live, and who to be. Choosing your own path is an act of rebellion. A quiet one, a dignified one, but rebellion nonetheless. The Stoics understood this. They didn't seek approval, they sought alignment. Seneca said, "Let the man who would truly be free practice being indifferent to what makes others slaves." Slaves to image, to status, to noise. So how do you begin to set your course? Start by defining your values, not the ones you post online, the ones you live when no one's watching. Is it freedom, growth, honesty, family? Whatever it is, those values are your compass. They won't always give you a straight line, but they'll always point you home. Once you're anchored in values, set goals that feel alive, not goals that just sound good, not the checklist you borrowed from someone else's dream. But goals that pull you forward, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because here's the truth. Setting your course means stepping into the unknown. It means you will disappoint people. It means you will walk alone at times. And it means you'll have to make peace with discomfort. But discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the evidence. It's the signal that you're growing, evolving, no longer sleepwalking through a script that was never yours to begin with. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." You already carry the wisdom, the voice, the knowing. Now you must have the courage to follow it. And yes, your course may shift. What you want today might evolve tomorrow. That's not failure. That's life. Stay flexible, stay curious, and adjust with grace. Because at the end of the road, what matters isn't whether your path was perfect, but whether it was yours. So ask yourself, if no one were watching, what life would I choose? And what's stopping me from starting today? Because the world will always try to steer you, but only you can take the wheel. 7. Make your stand. When the world pulls, stand still. At some point in your life, you'll be asked, quietly or loudly, to betray yourself, to laugh at the joke that crosses a line, to nod along with beliefs that don't sit right in your gut, to compromise your values for comfort, for approval, for belonging. And in that moment, the world won't shout at you. It'll whisper, just go along. Don't make it awkward. Don't be difficult. But the Stoics would ask a different question. At what cost? Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because walking the path of integrity often means walking alone. Not out of pride, not out of defiance, but because you refuse to bend into shapes that weren't made for you. Making your stand doesn't mean shouting your values from rooftops. It means living them quietly, consistently, especially when no one's watching. If honesty is your value, speak the truth even when it trembles. If compassion is your compass, show it even when others don't. If growth is your creed, choose discomfort over ease. And understand this, you won't always be applauded for standing tall. Some will misunderstand you. Some will distance themselves. But that's not a reflection of your failure. It's a confirmation that you're no longer available for compromise. To stand doesn't mean to fight every battle. It means to know which ones matter. It means discerning when to speak and when to walk away with your peace intact. The Stoics mastered this balance. Their strength wasn't loud, it was unshakable, rooted in clarity, grounded in principle. And when you live this way, something unexpected happens. People start to notice, not because you told them what you believe, but because you became what you believe. That's the kind of strength the world can't ignore. So here's your quiet challenge. Clarify your values. Then make one small, consistent decision today that honors them. Because in a world pulling you in 1,000 directions, your power lies in standing still, right where your truth lives. 8. Nurture your wit, laughing without losing depth. When people think of Stoicism, they imagine stone faces, tight lips, and silence in the face of chaos. But the truth is, the Stoics weren't against laughter. They were against losing yourself to the absurdities of life without perspective. Because here's what they knew. Humor isn't weakness. It's wisdom wearing a smile. Life will humble you. It will embarrass you, frustrate you, and throw you into situations so ridiculous, all you can do is laugh. And sometimes that laugh is your most honest, most human, most resilient response. Seneca once said, "He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at." That's not sarcasm. It's self-awareness wrapped in grace. It's knowing that your mistakes, your flaws, your awkward moments, they're all part of the journey. And when you stop taking yourself so seriously, something powerful happens. Your ego softens, your clarity sharpens, and your presence becomes magnetic. Think about it. Who do you feel safer around? The person who clings to their image like it's armor? Or the one who can smile at their imperfections and make space for yours? Wit isn't just about being funny, it's about perspective. It's the ability to step back and say, "This is messy, but I'm still here, still growing." And maybe it's kind of hilarious. Humor disarms tension. It lightens heavy rooms. It helps you survive moments that might otherwise break you. You don't have to be a comedian, but learning to spot the absurdities in everyday life, the traffic jam meltdown, the spilled coffee tragedy, the overthinking spiral, that's a form of emotional jiu-jitsu. You're redirecting the energy. You're not suppressing the moment, but transforming it. Wit is also a social superpower. It connects. It softens conflict. A well-timed joke during a tense moment can create space for understanding. It says, "I see the tension, but I'm not letting it define us." And maybe most importantly, humor is a mirror. The way you laugh reflects the way you live. So how do you nurture it? Observe life like it's a play you're both acting in and watching. Learn to catch yourself in your own dramas and smile. Read widely. Listen closely. And most of all, give yourself permission to be a little ridiculous sometimes. Because life is serious. But you don't have to be crushed by the weight of it. You can smile in the storm. You can laugh when you stumble. And you can remember that wit, like wisdom, doesn't shout. It simply knows better. 9. Practice respect, the quiet discipline that shapes your character. Respect is easy to preach and hard to practice, especially in a world that rewards speed over presence, noise over nuance, and opinions over understanding. But Stoicism teaches something different, something timeless, that how you treat others, especially when it's hard, reveals who you really are. It's not about agreeing with everyone. It's not about pretending to like what you don't. It's about recognizing the dignity in every person you meet, even if their worldview clashes with yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? That isn't softness. It's radical self-honesty, because real respect doesn't start with others. It starts with the humility to know we are all flawed, all learning, all human. Respect shows up in the smallest of moments. Pausing before interrupting. Listening not to reply, but to understand. Acknowledging someone's presence, even when you disagree with their perspective. And let's be clear, respect is not weakness. It's discipline. The discipline to stay grounded when others lash out. To set boundaries without hostility. To disagree without dehumanizing. In a noisy world, one of the rarest traits is someone who can disagree calmly. Who can say, I see your view, even if I don't share it. And mean it. This doesn't mean becoming a people pleaser. Stoicism is clear. You are not responsible for everyone else's comfort. You are, however, responsible for how you show up. So ask yourself, how do I speak to people when I'm frustrated? Do I seek to understand before I judge? Can I stand my ground without stepping on someone else's? Respect is also mirrored in how you show up for yourself. Do you speak to yourself with the same courtesy you extend to others? Do you honor your own needs, your time, your space? Because self-respect isn't separate from how you treat the world. It's the root. In a time when disrespect is mistaken for strength, and shouting is mistaken for truth, choosing respect is a rebellion of the highest kind. So be the person who listens, who pauses, who stands firm but speaks gently, not because it's easy, but because it builds something real. Character, trust, humanity, and that, my friend, is what endures. 10. Set clear parameters, because peace requires structure. There's a quiet kind of exhaustion that creeps into your life, not all at once, but through 1,000 small compromises. You stay late at work again, answer one more text, say yes to something you should have declined, and soon, your days aren't yours. Your energy isn't yours. Your life isn't yours. But here's what the Stoics understood. If you don't define your limits, the world will define them for you, and it rarely does so in your favor. Setting clear parameters isn't about being cold or inflexible. It's about drawing lines that protect your time, your energy, and your mental clarity. It's about creating a structure where peace can actually live. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." But how can you adorn yourself, shape your life intentionally, if you've given everyone else the permission to shape it for you? Start here. What are your non-negotiables? When does your day end? What kind of behavior drains you? What kind of requests deserve a no without guilt? These aren't selfish questions. They are foundational, because without boundaries, even good things become burdens. Even love becomes burnout. Even ambition becomes anxiety. And here's the thing about boundaries. They don't have to come with explanations. They just need consistency. The moment you keep making exceptions, your parameters become suggestions, and people learn to treat them that way. You teach others how to treat you by what you tolerate. So say it clearly. I don't respond to work texts after 7 p.m. I'm not available for that this week. I need space to recharge. Then hold your ground, not with aggression, but with quiet conviction. And yes, some people won't like it, but the right ones will respect it. And more importantly, you'll start respecting yourself more. Setting parameters is not about pushing people away. It's about honoring your capacity, because you can't give fully from an overextended self. So here's the challenge. Pick one area of your life that feels out of alignment, and draw a line. Just one. Then protect it, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Not out of resentment, but out of love, for your time, your energy, your purpose. Because peace isn't accidental. It's built with boundaries. 11. Cut out negative energy, clearing space for who you're becoming. Some things in your life aren't just draining you. They're quietly destroying your clarity. A toxic conversation that echoes in your mind hours later. A room that feels heavy the moment you walk in. A habit you keep repeating, not because it helps, but because it's familiar. And little by little, without even realizing it, You start shrinking to fit the chaos around you. But here's the truth the Stoics knew well. You cannot build a life of peace if you're surrounded by what disturbs it. That's not cold. That's clarity. Marcus Aurelius put it simply. The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do. Only what you do. In other words, protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Start with people. Not everyone who started the journey with you is meant to finish it. Some relationships were meant to teach, not to stay. And holding on out of guilt or habit only creates resentment. This doesn't mean you burn bridges. It means you stop crossing ones that always lead you back to the same pain. Limit your access, not your compassion. Love people, but love them from a distance, if that's where peace lives. But the negative energy isn't always out there. Sometimes it's internal. The voice that tells you you're not enough. The belief that you can't change. The reflex to expect the worst before anything even happens. You have to confront that voice, not with violence, but with truth. Is this thought helping or harming? Would I speak this way to someone I love? What else might be possible? When you challenge that inner noise, you create space for a wiser voice to rise. And don't overlook your physical space. Clutter isn't just visual, it's emotional. Sometimes the most powerful act of clarity is cleaning your desk. Letting go of clothes you haven't worn. Closing the tab that keeps stealing your focus. Chaos around you creates noise within you. And then there are your habits. Time wasters. Numbing scrolls. Constant busyness. Ask yourself, is this restoring me or just distracting me? The distinction is everything. Cutting out negative energy isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. Removing what weakens you so you can grow where it matters. It's about choosing what deserves your attention and having the courage to release what doesn't. So take inventory. What drains you, distracts you, or diminishes you? And what would your life look like if you let it go? Remember, you are not obligated to carry what breaks your spirit. And the clearer your energy becomes, the more your life begins to reflect the person you're truly becoming. 12. Embrace solitude, the stillness that reveals who you are. There's a kind of silence that terrifies most people. Not because it's empty, but because in that silence, you finally hear yourself. We fill our days with noise, music in the background, endless notifications, conversations that skim the surface. But beneath all of that, there's a voice, your own, waiting to be heard. And that voice only speaks clearly in solitude. But we've been taught to fear being alone, to see it as weakness, as loneliness, as something to escape. The Stoics saw it differently. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor surrounded by constant demands, wrote these words in the quiet of night. People seek retreats for themselves, in the country, by the sea, in the hills. But nowhere can a person find a retreat more full of peace than within their own soul. Solitude isn't a retreat from life. It's a return to yourself. A space where the mind stops echoing the world's noise and begins tuning into truth. It's in solitude that you ask the harder questions. Am I living by my values or by default? Is my busyness a form of avoidance? What am I pretending not to know? And here's the paradox. The more time you spend in solitude, the less lonely you feel, because you're no longer abandoning yourself in the name of connection. You're becoming your own sanctuary. You don't need to disappear for days. Solitude can begin with 10 minutes in the morning. A quiet walk without your phone. A pause before you respond. A breath before you react. That space, the stillness, becomes the ground where clarity grows. In a world that wants your attention at all times, solitude is rebellion. It's the refusal to be consumed. It's the choice to be rooted rather than reactive. So the next time you feel the urge to reach for a distraction, ask yourself, what if I just stayed with myself for a moment longer? Because when you get comfortable with your own presence, you stop chasing things that were never meant to complete you. And in that stillness, you finally become whole. 13. Reflect daily, turning each day into a step toward wisdom. You've survived 1,000 days, but how many of them have you actually learned from? We don't grow just because time passes. We grow because we pause. That pause, brief, quiet, often uncomfortable, is where transformation begins. And no practice embodies this better than daily reflection. The Stoics didn't just live, they examined. Every evening, before sleep, Seneca would replay the day like a film. What bad habit did I curb today? How am I better? What did I learn? He didn't do this to shame himself. He did it to sharpen himself. Because life is the classroom, but reflection is the teacher. Think about it. We spend hours planning, doing, fixing, achieving. But what if just 5 minutes at the end of each day could give all of that effort more direction? You don't need a journal full of poetic lines. You just need a moment of honesty. Try this. What did I do today that aligned with my values? Or did I act out of fear or ego? What am I grateful for? And what do I want to do differently tomorrow? This isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. And awareness is what turns mistakes into lessons, confusion into clarity, and busy days into meaningful steps on a deliberate path. The world may never ask you to reflect. It'll push you to go faster, do more, stay busy. But a Stoic knows that without self-examination, you risk becoming a stranger to your own life. Daily reflection is how you reclaim authorship of your story. It's how you stop drifting and start steering. So tonight, before the world goes quiet, don't just scroll. Don't just crash. Ask. Listen. Learn. Because wisdom isn't waiting at the end of the year or in some distant breakthrough. It's waiting at the end of this day, if you're brave enough to look inward. Your life is your practice. You've made it to the end, but this isn't really the end. It's the beginning of a different way of living. In a world obsessed with chasing more, louder, faster, you've just chosen a quieter, deeper kind of strength. Not the kind that needs applause, not the kind that bends for validation, but the kind that builds quietly day by day, on principles that do not shake when the world does. Stoicism was never meant to be read once and admired. It was meant to be lived, repeated, tested, and now you have 13 tools to begin that process. Maybe it starts with setting a boundary today, or showing up fully for yourself tomorrow morning. Maybe it's saying no for the first time without apologizing, or simply sitting in silence long enough to remember who you are. Whatever it is, start. Because wisdom doesn't come from knowing these strategies. It comes from living them, imperfectly, consistently, and with intention. And when you do, something changes. You become the person others trust in chaos, the calm in the storm, the grounded presence in a world that's always reaching. But more than that, you become someone you respect. So ask yourself, before you click away, which one of these 13 will you practice today? And when you're ready to go deeper, into stillness, self-mastery, and inner power, click one of the videos on your screen now. We'll walk this path together, one Stoic step at a time. Stay strong, stay grounded, and as always, live deliberately.